What up, Schmoedown Rockers? Okay. Then a live event, so, that happened. Not what, what way I wanted it to go. At all. Well, that just basically means that now all of a sudden, well, we'll get to that part of what I'm trying to get at in a minute, but we're going to start. Like, I had a feeling, but it turns out the feeling slightly didn't exactly. I mean, despite the way the things went and started off with promo, but with the main event thing, but as far as the undercard is concerned, I had a feeling if things went over that way, it would, but didn't exactly even go as planned with that either. Funny how that works. Y'all saw that stuff floating, right? Anyway. Well, I don't know what that was. But anyways. As far as the live event is concerned, and it seems from what I've already gathered, having recently watched the clips of it, it's no different from what you already saw for those who did get to see the Patreon, because they didn't do shit with the audio yet. At all. And I don't know if there's going to be any other cutscenes. I don't think there is. It's just whatever was shown there, you guys are going to see. It seems like that's what's going to happen here. So I'm just going to go off of what I said before. If I knew that, I would have started doing this earlier in the week. So, the match between Alex Damon on the Rockstars, which is that of which managed by Roxy Stryer, and of course the current, and somehow, because there isn't much going on in the division up until this point, I guess, for Star Wars, the current champ, Alex Damon, that and, well, Whitwer just won't bother to show up, and since he's made that clear, I guess nobody decided to draft him. I think he might have said something before the draft happened, which might have been a good thing, so nobody bothered to pick him, I guess. But yeah. And apparently since he's planning on going into IG, so he'd actually have a challenge. I mean, he did get, I guess, a challenge. He actually, missed some questions. But not very many. And, surprisingly, just Emily was... I think it's also more the fact that these are basically, if you have not lost at a live event, or have had experience in a live event more so or less, you're more likely to win the match itself. That's technically what happened here. It's all I learned out of this, because Merle's, well, we'll get to Merle's thing. Of course, Roxy just doing her mouthy thing, and, Finstock doing his silly Finstock thing, or Bobby Gucci, I should say, or whatever Dignia wants to go by at this point. And that's another thing. That's like the could have been once again the Finstock Exchange night, but I feel like this could be the pin shift, and then maybe it might wind up going more so to the Den. Especially speaking of that, hearing that announcement about the Butcher, now the newer rookie team, Butcher Boys, amongst the dungeon, have to face Ben Goddard, Rachel Silverstrini. I think she's still called Shooting Star, unless they're still really trying to milk that old Switchblade thing because of his announcer thing. All he's doing is just, what Christian's doing is just making it worse through sin. But anyways, by actually making it a possibility. But they're going to be the Pride, ironically enough, that team. And I understand that people will probably have the pride over my boys in the dungeon, and I'm getting tired of my dungeon losing. Have I ever said that already? Because I think I've said that multiple times. So, yeah. Hopefully that'll work out. But, okay, back to the Atlanta thing. I wanted to just clear that up. And then we have the match itself, after their little thing they do. She misses a few they had opponent's choice. He got opponent's choice, but somehow gave him of course, they were smart not giving him Star Wars. That's a given, but it's pretty clear that Finstock just didn't know what he was doing. He still was trying to get a feel over Emily Rose Jacobson, and because he doesn't know them as well as the other 4 members of the Horsemen, or at least, well, them, Barbarian, and basically and Barbarian mostly, and I guess maybe Cody. I don't know. I always love it with the in-studio ones where just anytime it's Finstock Exchange, Cody will just come in and just do his thing. You don't get that with this one, though. And then, of course, Jackass BC coming out more so during live events at this point because of his involvement more so as being a bodyguard type. And then hearing a lot of the stuff involved with Atlanta for that. Especially given that there was like Olympics tryouts and amongst other things. And then an opera going on in one building while a trivia Schmoedown's going on in another. Or a symphony or whatever. Excuse me, I got a hiccup there. That whole thing, well, Roxy finally has a win to her name that she can be proud of, I guess. It's not much of anything, I guess. I don't feel bad for Emily Rose Jacobson, she got better but didn't get a win, and her first live event, it winds up kind of becoming nowhere. Clearly she's still on par with what she played against Brandon Hanna, but it just wasn't enough against Damon, and luck was not in her favor is what it was, and just so much they could have done with it, right? And it's just merely Finstock just didn't know her players as well as he should, and he needs to, or else this will be, and he needs to. But I do love her coming out in the Ghostbusters outfit. Those were pretty good. That was pretty good. Damon didn't need much of anything, just him wearing his usual jacket and having the championship with him. It's just a shame. I do miss him coming out to the music he used to come out to, because they're trying to do copyright. And sometimes it's unfavorable, because I'm just already got used to what, like, for Ben and for Bateman and Damon's themes were, his choice for the solo Star Wars story was always great and always got you pumped. It's like, but these newer ones, copyright-free ones, just don't work. Hearing what the Finstock Exchange was potentially coming out to, I have nothing against Andrew's wife doing her thing, but it's just, I don't feel pumped going into the whatever. There's like, I just lets me scratching my head, like, what is this? Just whatever. But it would have worked better if he just come out with the theme he'd been doing with Who's the Boss. It just would have worked better, especially when freaking Merle has basically his old theme just done in whatever covers guy that did a metal cover of it, which sounds very BT Bam, by the way. Might have been BT Bam. I don't know. Still figuring that out myself. But it was always fun to hear that version of the Jaws thing. But anyway, Alex Damon just wound up with the win. She just couldn't pull what she needed to pull, I guess, and she just wound up getting TKO'd, which is a bummer. And she just doesn't have, and her record's 1-2, and her first win wasn't much of anything, despite being a knockout, but it wasn't much to talk about. It was one of the weakest IG matches probably out there, and that's what sucks. She's kind of recovered in the sense of her play and of her gameplay. It's just pulling the win out, and I hope she does. I just feel bad because I don't know if she'll ever get a chance to, because of how stacked the league is getting now. To the point where it's kind of become like the fan leagues themselves. But with but more closer to even football in and of itself, because the factions are kind of like your 10-player teams at this point. But it's like 9 different factions, and those factions are more likely the ones that are going to get more, even though there's others that are free agents, but they're less likely to get matches, it seems, than the teams that have factions and have some involvement a lot with that. So, how they're going to... But Knox has got a point on the board now, and Damon's got his feet wet in an Energetum, and I'm slightly worried how that's going to pan out. If anything, we'll see how he does play that out, if he does get stronger in it. And I do hope, and hopefully, I don't know who he's going to have to face next. I'm not entirely sure. Although it seems they want to hint at Robert Parker coming in and possibly going after them, which is nice to see some good dungeon representation, though he's slightly... Although, I do want to gift that. I mean, if I can't do it myself, can somebody in the dungeon, please make a gif of him coming up and make it look like he's web shooting, since Spider, get it, you know? That'd be great. I mean, it's just, I could not help but think that, him just running up and doing that. And Parker definitely can do good with his trash talk, though he stuttered a little bit. And apparently has done stand-up, so he knows how to work a crowd pretty good, too. And has done other things, I guess. No, I don't know as much as most people, because I don't keep up with the fan leagues as much. I know his involvement in it, and I know he's had some involvement, at least within the reactions for Take 3 in the earlier days, before he became heavily more involved in the fan leagues. But that's about my limits. And then, of course, hearing about him being the only loss Smets had in the fan leagues. And that being something that I guess Kaiser must have took to heart. Not to mention probably seeing how he basically did. I don't know if the magic trick stuff he did, from what I heard on Sin Live, was something he had done before the draft got started or something. And that was enough to even get Kaiser to be like, I'm having him in the dungeon. Because I could see that being part of it too. With him. I don't know if I've said that. But anyways, before. But if I have, I guess let me know in the comments. I don't know. But yeah, I'd love to meet everyone in the dungeon. It'd be nice. But yeah. Well, I was hearing he's given relationship advice video. Driv is interesting. But anyway, well, I might need that a little bit too, but maybe not as much as video, but I'd like a win, man. But anyways, the Stock Exchange gets their first loss. And then hearing about the fact that they have decided, because of this match being both members of Finstock Exchange going for a belt, they decided to get rid of the rule of getting 1 extra point if you lose, because you're in a title match. And, well, given Rose Jacobson's loss, Dang Nino was stupid and should have kept it as extra insurance policy. Because now, what's he going to do? Because now it got to a point where there's so much drama that was going into it. It added up to building this matchup to being potentially, if the way this thing was building up in hype, the hype made me think what was the level of the matches we've had that wound up actually being being legitimately awarded matches of the year. And that was Rachel Cushing versus Mara Kanopik. And last year's pretty much top tier match of all time. And probably that tier level that so far has not been met yet. And yeah, I said it. And that was Kalinowski versus Cushing 2 for the IG title, with Cushing having the win. Pulling out the win. Yeah. There's never, there will never be anything on that level. This seemed like it could have been a sudden death, but the moment it went into sudden death, most people just, it didn't really, you could feel the momentum just shift because of it. It was just a better, more entertaining, and more cutthroat version of what we wound up kind of getting out of the Oyama Snyder, just not nearly as bad or just as underwhelming as that match had turned out at all. I mean, it's great. It's a good match, but I find it more on par with what we got with Merle's match with Ethan at the New York Live event last season than what we got out of the Cushing versus that too. That's what I was going in hoping for. Expectations were not met for me. I did not like it. I'm glad it kind of at least went into a sudden death. Would I have preferred Ben to get the 5-pointer? Fuck yes. Fuck yes. Everyone in Action Army probably did, just so they could slightly, despite having cooled things down with Roca, sure, and enough to at least, have him interview finally happen, by the way. And on top of that interview, literally within a day later, finally getting the 100K subscribers. Good for you, Action. Hashtag Action Army. What? Salute. But yeah. The match itself was pretty solid. I mean, there was said to have no promos, but it seems Dagnino just doesn't know when to shut up anyway. And he even made a weird-ass comment that even had to clearly forced, because he wasn't planning on a promo, but Roca not playing a promo, still being good, and it's still being good, should already speak volumes on him. Having to do so for Dan. And, well, the first question, the Sir thing, just as a nod against Bibiani and stuff from their last match at the New York Live event from this year, and then doing it just to kind of mess with Ben, and which they kind of did say something to them before Ben did. That was the only thing planned in that. Everything else was just whatever the match was. And I do love how it did come off a little more back and forth from round 1 to round 2, and then round 3 is where things somewhat seemed like it would have shifted. But, we're not counting Dan out here. The match isn't over, and he did the most strategic thing possible, which is another thing about the Oyama match. Snyder was wanting to bet 0, but chose 1, and he should have just stuck with his gut, because it would have changed that matchup, and it did help a lot here. By sticking with 0, despite him going up 3 points and at least managing to get 4 out of the 5, and Ben continuing to dominate in the speed round against Merle, at least managing to do well enough to go up by 5 points, but he managed to make Ben sweat and try to have him earn this shot, and he wasn't able to pull, and it just basically got down to the last question, his 5-pointer. Luckily he was able to get the 2 and 3, and he was able to tie it to go to the sudden death. But he wasn't able to pull the 5, and from that point forward, and his round 1 wasn't as good as it should have been, because he was down by 3. But I think the 3 points he did make, and then however he was able to pull off for the second round, worked out fine in their face. And it wound up being, of course, Tyler Perry of all things, and it was in Atlanta, and apparently he's an Atlanta native, so that was the first time that category has bothered to come up, and it wound up working in his favor, obviously. And Dan knew it wasn't going to be in his favor, so he bet 0, because he didn't think he'd get it right. And he was right in that assumption, and it wouldn't have mattered either way because he bet 0. Though if he did get it right, he probably would have beat himself over the head for not being able to get points. But, the fact that he didn't, it worked itself out. Didn't matter. Because no points were exchanged, and he was able to maintain. And even if he didn't get all the points he did, he would find a way to make up in round 5. And that's what happened. Ben so celebrated a little too early, might have got a little too cocky, of course, and then it led to the difference is with this sudden death. At least it managed to go into at least more than one question. That's something that the Cushy one didn't have going, but that was still good. But the fact that was more neck and neck going into that round 5, and it was just enough of a nail biter that you didn't know if someone was going to mess up, and neither of them did. It led to that sudden death moment. There will never, like, that match is the standard to be met of all championship matches, and this one is a good championship match, but it's not the master class that Cushing and Kalinowski was. We're still waiting to see what that match will be. It's to say it's not going to be a contender match of the year, I'd be stupid in saying that. But just as far as overall of all time, Cushing and Kalinowski is up there for me right now. Even though moment for me personally that year had been finally getting to see my boy Smets get the belt, and so I could finally wear that freaking shirt again. That was nice, very, very lovely. So, but you took him to the limit. You showed that you are a championship caliber player, and that despite the run you made in the tournament wasn't easy. But the things leading up in terms of that entire night, how locked in he was, and he got and the luck and knowing how to play that did work in his favor against Bibiani and that in Spectacular. Not so much here. I don't know what Ben's gonna have to do to get back in the game, but yeah, it seems the FinStock Exchange just cooled off a little bit. They've managed to work things out for the time being, but for right now it seems more likely. Well, they have one loss. Well, they have technically two, given Ben's loss. So technically that leaves the Den the bigger team at this point, despite FinStock's. But since it's a championship match, they still have 2 points. So they'll still, in terms of points rankings, they're still going to be higher than Den, despite having technically 2 losses. Yeah, that's kind of what it is. Because if they had at least still one there, they would have just had 1 loss, and it wouldn't have been so bad. But so far, at least I got one of my top 3 still, I guess, in that of the Den, I guess, is a winning faction, I guess. We'll see I'd love to see a Den, how we're going to have a Den and that kind of faction thing. I'd love to see that. And now, slight predictions. I'm hoping for the family. I will slightly not be surprised if Corruption pulls the win, but I don't really think I want to see a Corruption Founding Fathers 4. You can't beat as good a moment as that Florida live event for 3. That was like the Riley Roca 3 type of a situation. It seems stupid to kind of follow that up, you know what I mean? And we've seen it before, and it's like Founding Fathers by that point, and I just won't be as interested. I want to see the family get it. Because this was something, because McWeeny never truly lost the belt. And Guy needs on his journey to finally getting one, and this is the best chance he's got is in teams at this point. I don't know about singles unless something happens and something through even this teams match. If somehow they don't pull it out against Corruption, can finally light a fire under their butt. I don't know if that will lead into another trade thing. There was supposed to be a big trader deal, but I haven't heard anything on what it was. I don't know. All I know is that the live event was fine. It's a match of the year contender alongside the last main event of the live events for the year in terms of that match. And so far, I guess Tom and Paul and Deep 13 are kind of up there in terms of the team matches, but I think the moment of the year might as well be Real Rejects managing to win a match in so long. Definitely something Quirky Mercs needed a win of since of the double loss losing double loss in that triple threat against Burl and all that. So it's just, I don't know. All I know is I'm still looking forward to this. I'm hoping somehow, some way, I will get to see whatever is going to be the Chicago live event. If Houston does happen, I doubt this will happen, but I would love to see, just as an undercard at the very least, just to further promote for them in Texas anyways. I mean, I doubt it'll work out since it's pretty clear that from what I've heard earlier in Sin, Corey Coleman's probably not wanting to do any trivia anymore. So, I mean, I would have, if he was like, screw it, Double Toasted versus Sin of Fanatics would have been great, but it's just more wishful thinking at this point, and it sounds like it would be more likely an exhibition rather than a actual live event or something. But anyways, that's my thoughts on the match, on the live event matches. What did you think? Or at least my brief thoughts of what I could pop out of my head. What did you guys think of the Atlanta live event? Leave a comment below. Let me know. What are your thoughts on going into the Schmoedown Throwdown for corruption versus family. I don't know if there's an undercard for that or not. They never really said that. They just said this match, which is fine. I'm okay with that. And they'll probably release it like Thursday and then another match on Friday. But anyways, that's my thoughts on that. Leave a comment below. Let me know on that. If you like this video, rock that like button with thrust if you must. Also hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell if you want to check out my video. If you want to, get you notified on my other videos. Link in the description to my Facebook page, so you can follow me there. If you don't see me under this channel's name or my actual name, through the Facebook pages, for both movie trivia for Sin, or the Sin Facebook group, and all the other Schmoedown related Facebook groups, most likely for the factions, and other fan pages specifically designed for certain players or competitors, Schmoedown Pro competitors. And that's it, guys. This is Rockin' Moves with Tyler. I'm Tyler. This has been I'm Tyler. If you smell what the movie trivia Schmoedown rocks. Skybound, I guess. Is cooking. Oh yeah. Dig it.